I had just finished attending the world's largest tech summit when Robert, my mentor whom I regarded as a father, called me. He had arranged an engagement for me with Ethan, the son of his good friend. Ethan was a rising star in Metropolis City, and I had licensed several of my patents to his company, which were currently core technologies for their new products. I worked overtime to handle my lab duties, then got ready and dressed up for the engagement ceremony. However, Ethan's executive assistant, Jessica, stopped me at the entrance to the grand. She was wearing an elegant gown and looked more like the bride than I did. If you know what's good for you, get lost. An orphan from a small town, you don't even look to see if you're worthy of Mr. Ethan. I countered, does know you would take matters into your own hands like this? Jessica scoffed contemptuously. Someone who can only get married by riding on her mentor's coattails, just a pretty face, how could you understand my standing in the CEO's heart? As she spoke, her face actually flushed with a hint of embarrassment. I glanced at her twice, then called Ethan. If your courtesy involves stopping your fiancé at the door, then my patents are for you to review the contract, and then I'll sell them to your rival company. Sound good? I was an orphan, and my ability to complete my studies and enter the nation's top research lab was entirely thanks to Robert's guidance. He showed me a lot of care, like a father would. So, for the arranged engagement he chose for me, I was willing to be patient. If handled this properly and gave me the explanation I deserved, I would be willing to give him another chance. Sage? What is it? The other end of the phone seemed lively, as if there were guests talking next to him. He first responded to the guests, then calmly brought the phone to his ear, as if he hadn't heard me speaking just now. Come and pick me up to enter the venue, your executive assistant. Before I could finish. I heard him click his tongue, speaking with great impatience. Do you have spoiled princess syndrome? Can't stand on your own 2 feet? I still have guests to entertain. Where would I find the time to pick you up? Just get yourself in here. A disconnect tone sounded from the other end of the phone. Jessica covered her mouth and laughed aloud, her eyes filled with undisguised mockery. I'm just following Mr. Ethan's instructions. If you want to go in, then get in. I definitely won't stop you then. No matter how difficult the experiment, I could complete it calmly. But communicating with such unreasonable people, I only felt a throbbing in my temples. Ms. Jessica, do you think your position as executive assistant is secure? Hindering the CEO's fiancé at the grand entrance, is that your career plan? What a shame. Compared to a corporate high flyer like me, the CEO despises a completely useless pretty face like you even more. I looked at her coldly. Corporate high flyer? A high flyer with ulterior motives for her CEO? Does know that his executive assistant fawns over him like a lapdog every day? Jessica suddenly flew into a rage. She raised her hand and swung it sharply towards me. I stepped back twice and dodged it. You resort to violence when cornered? So when a business contact negotiation fails, do you slap them like that too? What a professional you are. You. Hold her down. With her thoughts exposed, Jessica's sharp voice cracked slightly. She took a breath, staring intently at me, her fingertips trembling as she pointed. A few bystander security guards nearby heard her words and walked towards me. Jessica is acting foolish, and you're following suit? Do you know that the person you're about to use force on is Ethan's fiancé? I urged them to be rational. The security guards exchanged glances, and the lead guard spoke with feigned apology, though his eyes held mockery. Miss Sage, we are just following orders. Please be understanding. Ms. Jess. Sika is the CEO's favorite, while you're just a marriage tool with no background. If your deceased parents suddenly came back to life with immense power, then we would definitely apologize to you. To attend the engagement ceremony, I was wearing a well-fitted formal dress and high heels. After dodging twice, I was quickly grabbed by 2 security guards, forced to kneel before Jessica with my arms restrained. She stared grimly at my face, then suddenly pulled back her lips in a smile. Raising her hand with its manicured nails, she moved to strike me. I sharply closed my eyes. Stop. A deep voice filled with anger resonated, and Jessica's hand froze in midair. Ethan walked towards me. His posture was tall and straight, his face handsome, even more strikingly handsome than in photos. He surveyed me with disdain, his gaze sweeping over my face, then pausing. Today is our engagement ceremony. What embarrassing spectacle are you creating? I broke free from the security guard's grasp, stood up, and sneered. Can't you see what's happening? Ethan, I'd like to ask you, is your security using violence against me at the grand entrance your idea of courtesy? Don't you know your executive assistant just now? Before I could finish, Ethan interrupted me with a frown. Enough. You're late for the engagement ceremony and instead of coming in, you're making a scene at the entrance. If my security guards didn't restrain you, should they wait for you to run in and attack the guests? My time is precious, and it's being wasted by you. You, an orphan, are worthless and foolish. I truly don't know why Dad insisted on this engagement. Guests who had come out to watch cast vague glances at me, whispering among themselves. Those condescending gazes made me feel like a clown. I also felt my time had been wasted. I had spent so much time getting ready and dressed up, and even took time off specifically for this. With that time, new experimental data could have been updated. Ironic, I also feel my time has been wasted. Since we clearly despise each other, why don't we just call off the engagement? Ethan froze, his eyes narrowing slightly. Are you threatening me? Making a scene in front of me isn't enough, now you're using calling off the engagement as a stunt? Do you think I'd be threatened by that? I looked at Ethan's expression and was suddenly lost for words, feeling a sense of powerlessness that made rational conversation impossible. Beside him, Jessica leaned delicately against Ethan. Mr. Ethan, she's causing such a scene at the engagement ceremony. What will she do after marriage? 'Cause chaos? And just now, seeing me as your executive assistant, she thought I was attractive and angrily tried to hit me. If those security guards hadn't protected me, she definitely would have succeeded. Ethan looked at me in disbelief. Jessica has been my executive assistant for 2 years. She's handled so many tasks for me. Do you think she's just a pretty face like you? What's there to be jealous of? I twitched the corner of my lips, but there was no trace of a smile in my eyes. Well, I'm curious why you think I'm just a pretty face. Do you really believe your executive assistant's words? Your executive assistant, Ethan interrupted me again. If I don't believe my executive assistant, should I believe a lunatic like you? Jessica raised her hand to cover her lifted lips, blinking, and tears welled up in her eyes. Mr. Ethan, my heart breaks for you. You're already a force to be reckoned with in this metropolis city, yet you're still constrained by your father, forced to marry a lunatic. Ethan had only been at the helm of Hayes for 2 years, and Mr. Henry was still interfering with its affairs. He had accumulated a lot of resentment due to his father's meddling. After finished speaking, the air around him instantly grew heavy. Sage, you'd better sincerely apologize to me and make amends. Otherwise, not even my father CA. And save you. I finally understood. Jessica was less of a right-hand man and more of a lackey. She knew exactly what to say to get into Ethan's head. The perception that I was just a pretty face was surely due to her whispering in his ear. Ethan was used to being flattered, humoring him made things easier. I glanced at him, feeling nothing but helpless. What compensation do you want? He scoffed, I want you to personally call my father and say that calling off the engagement was entirely your decision. I nodded briskly. Understood. With that, I took out my phone and opened my contacts list. Ethan looked at me in surprise, then pursed his lips. Think carefully. If you make that call, the wealth and prestige of Hayes will have nothing to do with you. I didn't reply to him, directly found Mr. Henry's contact, and pressed dial. Not only that, I want her to kneel and apologize to me in front of everyone. Jessica's feigned grievance interrupted. Mr. Ethan, I've worked tirelessly for Hayes for so many years, relying solely on my work ability. Being bullied and insulted like that just now, I truly can't bear it. Unless she apologizes to me, I will absolutely not forgive her. I actually laughed in exasperation. The security guards were still standing there. Who was bullying whom, exactly? Jessica, you twist the truth so easily. Do you think everyone is an idiot? You ordered security to restrain me and tried to hit me. Now you're saying I bullied you? Ethan stood in front of Jessica. You must have hurt Ms. Jessica first, she was just trying to defend herself. If you have any basic decency and integrity, then apologize to Ms. Jessica. Otherwise, I'll have to use force to make you apologize. He scanned the surroundings. The security guards received the instruction and stood menacingly towards me. Sage certainly has decency. I, on the other hand, think you and your executive assistant have completely lost all shame. A dignified voice came from behind E.T. Han. It was Vance's CEO, Marcus. He walked over with a smile, a mole beneath his sharp eyes shimmered. Vance was Hayes' rival company, many of their businesses overlapped. Marcus had taken over his family's business early, and the company was thriving. He and Ethan often engaged in a classic clash of titans. However, due to my patented technology, Hayes' recent product updates were subtly gaining an edge over Vance. Ethan was surprised that Marcus had come to the engagement ceremony. Mr. Marcus, you must have a lot of free time, not only attending a rival's engagement but also meddling in my private affairs? Ethan said, displeased. I was also surprised looking at Marcus's back as he shielded me. I had previously discussed collaboration with him, and we had gotten along reasonably well. I just didn't expect that halfway through our interactions, he would attempt to seduce me, which scared me into rushing back to the lab that night. This patent, too, was because Professor and Mr. Henry were old friends of many years. So I sold the patent to Hayes. I hadn't expected him to be willing to stand up for me. Sage, how's the engagement? Are you happy with the venue? Mr. Henry's jovial voice came from the phone. I'm calling to tell you I'm calling off the engagement. Mr. Ethan's executive assistant stopped me from entering the venue and even had security use violence against me. When Ethan came out, he didn't care to listen and even wanted me to grovel and apologize to Ms. Jessica. Your family's standards are too high. I won't be joining. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. What? That brat only knows how to cause me trouble. I'll come over and deal with him. Mr. Henry muttered, followed by the sound of a car starting. Mr. Henry, please don't listen to that wretch's words. You've been deceived by that social nobody. Jessica suddenly snatched my phone, pouting and feigning sadness. I went to the entrance to properly greet Miss Sage, but she refused to enter and just caused trouble there. I've worked tirelessly for Hayes for so many years, can't I even get an apology? Mr. Henry's voice turned grim. Ms. Jessica, is it? You're fired. Go to the HR department and resign. Jessica's face froze. My son's arranged engagement, what are you meddling for? Do you think those lies can fool me? Unexpectedly, Mr. Henry chose to believe me. Jessica's face twitched, and her hand gripping the phone tightened. She squeezed out a few words, then looked at Ethan, tears welling up in her eyes. Mr. Henry, if you don't care for your son, can't I? Just to win over a professor, you're making Mr. Ethan get engaged to an orphan social nobody. Are you treating Mr. Ethan as a tool for arranged marriages? The other end of the phone fell silent again. After a long pause, Mr. Henry finally sighed, his voice suddenly sounding frail. Is that what Ethan thinks too? Does he think it's Dad's fault? So he did all this, unwilling to get engaged to Sage? Ethan looked at me, then averted his gaze. As long as Sage is willing to sincerely apologize to my executive assistant, I will still be willing to go through with the engagement. Manicured nails scraped sharply against the phone case. I looked over and saw Jessica's face distorted. Sage, what do you say? The other end of the phone seemed expectant. Expecting what? Expecting me to apologize to Jessica? All my previous patent collaborations had been with Mr. Henry. I used to think he was a fair person. I trusted his upbringing, which was why when Robert said my fiancé was Ethan, I was willing to come with an expectant attitude. However, a businessman is, after all, a businessman. To achieve his goals, even knowing the truth, he was willing to wrong me this once. I was curious, did he really think I had no other options than Ethan? I suddenly found it a bit amusing. I raised my hand and lightly poked the waist of the person in front of me. Marcus flinched. He was currently upset by Mr. Henry's words and about to make a snide remark but was interrupted by me. He softened his expression and looked at me, pursing his lips and lowering his head, leaning in to listen. Marcus, I'm thinking of changing my arranged engagement partner. Do you want to volunteer? Marcus's eyes widened suddenly. He opened his lips, moved them, and the corners of his eyes suddenly turned a little moist. It would be an honor. Sage, what are you saying? Your arranged engagement with my son was agreed upon by me and Professor. Isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to suddenly back out now? Professor funded your upbringing, and you later became his student. He's practically a father figure to you. Have you considered how you'll explain this to him? After a brief surprise, Mr. Henry quickly calmed down and tried to persuade me patiently. There was also a sense of coercion. He mentioned Robert, and I was displeased. You seem to have forgotten, the reason I called you was to call off the engagement. I stated my initial purpose. My mentor will only be happy for me to call off the engagement and escape a miserable situation. My mentor hopes my future partner is an excellent person of good character, and that clearly does not include your son, Mr. Henry. I looked at my phone in Jessica's hand, my eyes filled with undeniable mockery. The gazes of the surrounding guests were too piercing, and Ethan's entire face flushed red. He looked at me as if his composure shattered. Sage, don't go too far. You're the one who did something wrong. What right do you have to meddle with me? Do you think that calling off the engagement will make today's events disappear? Feeling humiliated, his eyes filled with anger, and he pressed down on me with a heavy tone. Do Do you think I'll let you off the hook if you call off the engagement? Shut up. Shut up. Two voices sounded simultaneously. On the phone, Mr. Henry hadn't had time to continue lecturing Hi's son. The person beside me had already adjusted his sleeves and walked over. Ethan, who are you trying to lecture? Are you threatening my girlfriend right in front of me? Do you think my Vance is just for show? Marcus raised his hand and took my phone from Jessica's hand. Then, unhurriedly, he returned to my side. Mr. Marcus, you don't know that Sage is just an orphan social nobody. She's not worth your... Jessica started to speak unwillingly, but then stopped under Marcus's icy gaze. I almost forgot about you, Ms. Jessica, for the humiliation my girlfriend suffered today. Marcus, will repay it twofold in the future. Please be prepared. Jessica suddenly shivered. Listening to Marcus's threat, Ethan scoffed. Marcus, our two companies have so many overlapping industries, and it's clear Hayes is performing better now. I'd like to see what you're capable of for revenge. Don't go putting on a brave face just to show off. Marcus smiled, his lips curving, completely unconcerned by Ethan's mockery. He held my hand, his eyes sparkling. Want to keep playing? Or come home with me? I nodded gently. Marcus and I were about to leave hand in hand but were stopped by a car that pulled up quickly. Mr. Henry abruptly opened the car door and anxiously reached out to me. Wait. How odd. My father, who didn't even come to my engagement, suddenly showed up. Ethan looked at the sudden appearance of Mr. Henry, forcing a tight, insincere smile. What he got in return was Mr. Henry's furious glare. Jessica stood in front of Ethan and complained pitifully. Mr. Henry, you don't know, that wretch actually called off the engagement in front of so many people and chose Mr. Marcus from the rival company. She's disgraced Hayes like this, you must teach her a good lesson. Smack. Jessica clutched her face and fell to the ground, her formal dress getting covered in dust. The slap was so hard that she struggled on the ground for a long time before she could get up. I see me here myself, and you still dare to twist the truth, do you? Do you think I don't know your ulterior motives? Mr. Henry turned around and gave me a kind smile. Sage, what happened today is my son's fault. For my sake, please give him another chance. This engagement ceremony has been prepared for so long, and the guests have all arrived. The ring is a rare emerald that Hayes specially bid for at an auction. You'll surely love it. And look, my son is quite good looking in this metropolis city, isn't he? Ethan looked at his father, who seemed like a pimp, and found it absurd. He gritted his teeth and spoke, sounding somewhat distraught. Dad, what are you talking about? If you want to win over Professor, I'm confident I can persuade him. If not, doesn't Hayes have enough money? Why do you have to flatter her? Mr. Henry's voice was even louder than his. Because all those patents belong to her. The core technologies for Hayes' latest products are all Professor's inventions. You've been in charge for so long, and you haven't even bothered to check whose core technology patents they are? Ethan stared at me dumbfounded, his eyes finally showing a belated panic. The executive assistant who had gotten out of the car with Mr. Henry earlier now walked over. Chairman, the surveillance footage from the grand entrance has been retrieved. The large screen, originally meant for the engagement ceremony, was moved out. After the executive assistant operated the computer, everything that had just happened at the entrance was projected onto it. The executive assistant, who was supposed to welcome the bride, was blocking the entrance like a guard dog. Twisting the truth, wantonly insulting. When angered, she even ordered security to use violence against someone. The high-definition footage on the screen showed every detail, fully exposing her face, distorted by jealousy, to everyone. Jessica was still sitting on the ground, clutching her face. She looked at the screen and dared not stand up. Deep fear was hidden in her eyes. She looked up pleadingly at Ethan, hoping her CEO could save her, but only stared blankly at my face. Look, this is your most trusted executive assistant. Interrupting others' explanations, punishing without a second thought. Is this how I taught you? Mr. Henry sighed in exasperation, raising a hand to wipe his face. What are you standing there for? Aren't you going to apologize? Ethan's face finally showed some mortified shame. He pursed his lips and looked at me, then suddenly bowed deeply. Sage, I'm sorry. A slender arm wrapped around my waist, gently moving me aside, dodging Ethan's apology. Marcus's lips curved in a smile, but his eyes held a cold glint. I will prepare a better wedding for Sage, and a better ring. He glanced at Mr. Henry. My looks are quite good in Metropolis City too. As long as Professor wants to choose, the people who want to win her favor could line up to France. Not choose this fool who sends out lackeys to bite people like a mad dog. Ms. Jessica, who had been silent since hearing that the Hayes patents belonged to me, was now fuming but dared not speak. She kept her head down, letting her hair conceal her expression, quietly minimizing her presence. She has plenty of people who love her, plenty of people who want to cherish her. Ethan, from the very beginning, you disliked her because she was an orphan with no family background. But haven't you barely managed to gain an edge over me precisely because of the things that spilled from this orphan's fingertips? Mr. Henry, we'll be leaving now. We'll settle today's matter with you later. Wrapped in a sandalwood-scented embrace, Marcus's eyes were filled with indignation over what I had just endured. He took my hand and walked towards his car. Sage, Mr. Henry's slightly fatigued voice reached me. My son did wrong today. Uncle apologizes to you. It's just that he and you were not meant to be. Robert and I have been good friends for many years, and he always treated you like his own daughter. Today, I also want to adopt you as my goddaughter. What do you say? As expected of an old fox who had been in power for years, I thought to myself. Mr. Henry's face was now full of fatherly love, showing no trace of acting. Unable to secure my technology through marriage, was he resorting to family ties? I spoke calmly. No, my boyfriend and Hayes are rivals. It's better if we keep our distance from now on. Mr. Henry's eyes showed anxiety. Oh, why are you being so distant? Are you still upset with Ms. Jessica? I'll fire this executive assistant right now. I promise you, from now on, no company in Metropolis City will hire her. Jessica, who had been cowering, finally broke down. She shrieked and scrambled out, one side of her face swollen high, tears and snot streaming down. She threw herself on the ground and hugged one of Mr. Henry's legs. Chairman, I know I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please, have mercy on me. Seeing Henry's firm stance, she turned and grabbed Ethan's trouser leg. Mr. Ethan, I've done so much for you. I put in the work. Please save me. Please save me. I'll die. I'll die. She had been throwing her weight around using Ethan's name for so long. Once she fell from power, she dared not imagine what her fate would be. Trembling uncontrollably, her eyes almost overflowing with terror, she looked up pleadingly, hoping Ethan would show a hint of pity. But she only saw his indifferent gaze. Ethan coldly stepped back. Jessica, when you do something wrong, you should be punished. Jessica seemed to lose all her strength, her hands maintaining the grabbing motion as they fell to the ground. And her only lifeline now stopped looking at her, shifting his gaze directly to me. Professor, I'm just now realizing how brilliant you are. I was deceived by Jessica before, thinking you were after wealth and status. That's why you wanted to mar. Why into the family? I apologize to you. I will compensate you well. I hope you can give me another chance. Are you still willing to complete this engagement ceremony with me? Marcus gripped my wrist tightly, pursing his lips forcefully. Ethan, this is the first time I've seen you so shameless. I think you should remember that Sage just became my girlfriend. Ethan stood tall and unyielding. Since both are arranged engagements, I believe Professor would definitely choose someone who knows each other's background, rather than picking just to spite, only to regret it later. Professor, your previous technology performed quite well at Hayes, didn't it? He took a ring from his suit pocket. The rare emerald ring glowed luxuriously in the sunlight. I will definitely give you an explanation for today's fiasco. I hope you'll give it serious thought. Mr. Henry chuckled to me. Yes, this boy is stubborn, but once he's decided, he's very loyal. And your mentor and I have been old friends for so many years. Our backgrounds are mutually known. I sighed softly. Why do people always treat me like an idiot? Ethan, was it truly unintentional that you kept interrupting me just now? Ethan's smug expression froze. You thought I, an orphan, couldn't bring you benefits, so even though you knew what your executive assistant had done, you still interrupted my explanations. You did this to stand on the moral high ground and call off the engagement with me, didn't you? I had tried to explain Jessica's actions multiple times, but he had interrupted me at just the right moments. How could I not understand his ulterior motives? Could that old fox Henry really raise a dumb dog? Not only did you want to call off the engagement with me, you wanted to tarnish my reputation and even make me pay a price. And because I was causing trouble, you could seize the opportunity to demand more compensation from my mentor, right? I was just a tool, a stepping stone, thoroughly used. You just didn't expect that all those patents were mine. Wanting to arrange a marriage with me again, isn't it because you truly saw my value? I didn't want to watch this charade anymore, so I directly pulled down his veil of pretense. Ultimately, Jessica was just an executive assistant. How much of what she did at the entrance was her own initiative? And how much was due to subtle hints from those above her? Ethan's expressions from earlier ranged from furious to mocking to deeply apologetic. But now, he was completely calm. Just like his father. I smiled faintly. Besides, I'm not sure I can trust a CEO who's been in power for 2 years and doesn't even know whose core technology patents belong to. I still feel my technology would be cherished advance. Ethan's expression stiffened, and he was instantly mortified. Currently, most of the company is still managed by my father, He wanted to explain to me but then glared and stopped speaking, looking at my hand clasped with Marcus's. My phone suddenly rang. I looked down and answered the call. Sage? Mr. Henry said you're calling off the engagement. What happened? Did something upset you? It was a bit noisy on the other end of the phone, but as Professor walked, it gradually quieted down. Professor was currently attending a summit abroad, a task he had suddenly been assigned. Before boarding the plane, he had been sighing about not being able to attend my wedding and asked me to take many photos for him. Now, upon receiving Mr. Henry's message, he immediately called me. Listening to his tone, which contained only concern and no blame, I smiled faintly. Professor, it's like this. Before I could finish, I heard furious curses from the other side. Mixed with a few local colloquialisms, his words came out as fast as a spinning top. He sighed, his voice hoarse, and actually started crying from anger. Sage, it's my fault. I knew that old fox Henry wouldn't teach anything good. Call off the engagement. Just call it off. Ethan isn't worthy of you. I'll take care of everything once I'm back in the country. The loving voice made a decisive conclusion. I hadn't expected that sending a message to a friend for help would yield such swift results. Mr. Henry spoke weakly. Robert. Professor scoffed, his angry tone clearly audible through the speakerphone. Phoo, you know I treat Sage like my own daughter. We've had so many years of friendship, is this how you treat my daughter? My eyes welled up. I also considered him my father. A while ago, Robert was suddenly hospitalized with a serious illness. When he was discharged, he looked at the list of diagnoses on his discharge papers and let out a deep sigh. He realized he was very frail and might not have much time left. His only concern was me. I would get so absorbed in my experiments that I would forget to eat. He was truly worried that once he was gone, no one would look after me. That's why he was so eager to find me a partner. Sage. The voice that could lecture in a grand with full vigor now sounded very frail through the speakerphone. My throat tightened with a sour ache, I couldn't speak. Sage, I still have plenty of time. If we don't like this one, you can keep taking your time to choose. Finding a marriage partner is a serious matter. Don't make a hasty choice in a moment of pique. I know what kind of things Ethan has done, but I don't know Marcus, so I wouldn't dare let you marry him. Just turn Marcus down and explain clearly to him. I, Professor, will bear the consequences of breaking the promise. Marcus immediately stood rigidly, like a flagpole. His eyes showed nervousness. The old man on the phone had good intentions, and Marcus didn't know what to say to alleviate the old man's concerns. Marcus is actually quite good. My eyes held a smile as I gently reassured him on the phone. Don't you remember, a few years ago, when discussing prosthetics technology for people with disabilities, I had conversations with him? I know him quite well. My mentor was still full of apprehension. I'm just worried you're acting out of spite, stubbornly refusing to back down. I lightly coughed. Actually, I really like Marcus's face, and I'm planning to start dating him. The other end of the phone paused, then laughed and cursed. Brat. The call ended. My mentor was doing well, and my mood was unusually good. As you can see, I looked at Mr. Henry. My mentor loves me very much, and he agrees to my calling off the engagement. How could a senior who truly loves me push me into a miserable situation? Ethan suddenly walked over, his face full of dejection, his eyes filled with regret and hope. Is it truly impossible for us? I truly know I was wrong. I'm sincerely apologizing to you. I was just deceived by Jessica. I interrupted his feigned sorrow. Ethan, if I were just an ordinary person, the treatment I received just now would become a lifelong nightmare. Marcus is a corporate high flyer on your same level, yet he's completely different from you. A few years ago, when Marcus and I discussed collaboration, after we agreed on the profit sharing, he took me to see the clinical application of my prosthetics technology. I thought we would go to some high-end sanatorium. Instead, it was a simple but clean hope. The director was a person with disabilities, and he walked towards us wearing prosthetics made with my technology. The director's clothes were old, and he smelled of cooking oil, yet embraced the director without hesitation. The children in this hope were mostly disabled. Professor, I truly admire you. Your technology will save even more people. His eyes, filled with admiration, met mine, and I was deeply moved. We talked animatedly, and I thought I'd made a good friend, even praising him during dinner for his beauty and kind heart. He thoughtfully lowered his gaze. That very night, he showed up at my hotel room door, partially undressed, the mole benet. His eye gleaming with an alluring light. I got a nosebleed and rushed back to the lab that night, avoiding him whenever I saw him afterward. Later, looking back, I felt a slight regret. I should have touched those 8-pack abs before leaving, if only I'd known. Of course, these are not things I would ever tell an outsider. You're well aware our engagement is over. Hayes will surely fall behind Vance. From now on. Your apology is merely because your interests are threatened, not because you genuinely feel sorry for me. Therefore, I don't accept your apology. And by the way, I'll remember what you did today. From now on, none of my patents will ever collaborate with Hayes. Genuine regret finally appeared in Ethan's eyes. I took Marcus's hand and walked toward his car, the car window slowly closing. Mr. Henry clutched his chest, gasping for breath. He sharply scanned the area, looking at Jessica sitting on the ground, lost in thought, then at the few security guards practically trying to disappear into the corner, and roared furiously. You! And all of you! You're fired! Get out! And you! Go take a few etiquette classes before you step foot in this company again. Ethan was subjected to his father's indiscriminate attack. Yet at that moment, his former defiant and unruly demeanor was gone. He lowered his head and silently agreed. In the last second before the car window fully closed, I saw those security guards giving Jessica resentful looks. What price would she pay? How pitiable. I mourned for her for 2 seconds, but felt no sympathy. The faint scent of oud wood drifted into my nostrils as Marcus leaned over to help me fasten my seatbelt. It's still early today, how about we go on a date? Where to? An amusement park? I looked over at him. Mr. Marcus, are you such an innocent person? Marcus's face was expressionless. Wasn't I just worried you couldn't handle too much intensity? He suddenly ground his teeth in frustration. I absolutely won't let my pursuit fall short again. I looked up at the car roof, coughed lightly, my face flushed with embarrassment.